The monkeys have tattoos to identify them, but it's still tricky. There are over 1,000 on the island, spread across at least 8 troops whose membership constantly changes, making Lauren's test troop a moving target.
Oh, Jane.
20F really, I don't know if you'll notice it when you collect data, but in previous years, 20F's been really asocial. So she's always
really?
kind of on the periphery of the group. I don't know if I've ever seen her grooming anybody. In terms of my research, I've been able to show that females that have tighter social bonds had lower stress hormone levels. So we measure in their feces their level of cortisol, which is this hormone that you release when you feel stressed. And females that have tighter knit social connections had lower stress hormone levels. We know grooming feels good. It's sort of like a massage. So when you're receiving grooming, your stress hormone levels go down. You release something that's called oxytocin, which is the sort of hormone of love, because when you're in physical contact with another individual, you release oxytocin. It has this cascading effect on your physiology. So interacting with another individual in a positive way in both people and monkeys feels good. So scan, he's being social. The benefit of friendship is multi-leveled. Females who have stronger social bonds live longer, have more infants. Their infants are more likely to survive. So maybe all of these things, these favors that we have, this physiological correlation with friendship, then builds to this output of better evolutionary fitness. We know now that having social bonds with other individuals helps you survive, helps you cope with the challenges that you face in your environment.
Maintaining tight social bonds requires recognizing not only your friends, but also the friends of your friends and the enemies of your friends. Building friendships is a complex social behavior that scientists such as Lauren Brent now believe evolution encoded into the DNA of humans and other species.
I've studied a lot of the neuroscience of emotions, and there's basic emotions that animals definitely have. It has been in the neuroscience literature for years. It was in the neuroscience literature when I studied psychology back in the 60s. Problem is this research is all over neuroscience. And there's a lot of people, even veterinarians, that don't want to admit that animals have emotion. I just got an email from a veterinarian the other day that says, well, we just can't say animals have emotions. It's just stress. I don't buy that.
We got a bandit in the tree.
16 years ago, I was taking in dogs and cats and farm animals, and somebody brought me a pair of raccoon kits. In the state of Oklahoma, the state owns the wildlife, and in order to care for them, you have to have a special license for rehabilitation. And I went looking for a facility that would take them and turn them loose when they were raised. There wasn't one. So what I decided to do was to get a license and ruin my life. At the time, I didn't know I was ruining my life. I thought a couple of raccoon kits, lots of fun, get them wild. My first year, I took in 860 orphaned and injured wild animals. And so I realized that there was a huge need. In 16 years, I've released way over 16,000 animals into the wild. We average 1,000 a year.
There is one animal at Wild Heart Ranch who can never be released. A 16-year-old lone Sitka deer named Amy, who is not native to the area.
Her mothering instincts are very dominant. So because I have many, many baby deer, it worked out perfect because she's willing to accept these orphans as her own and teach them to behave like deer. The dog is a golden retriever puppy named Ransom. He was born blind. At 6 weeks old, we took the puppy in. Otherwise, the puppy would have been euthanized. what happened was, here's this little blind puppy. And when I'm not around, he's looking for comfort. He's trying to find something to nurture him. Amy, being a natural mother, adopted this blind puppy. So we share custody. Amy and I have joint custody of the dog. And whether I'm here or she's here, it enriches his life and it gives him a sense of security. She has a natural compassion. She knows it's not a deer. She's had plenty of deer. She knows he's not a deer. They sleep together at night, and then in the morning, he wakes up, and before he starts his day, she spikes his coat. And I know that he's gotten his little hairdo for the day from Amy, his deer mom. Ransom regained his eyesight several weeks ago. It was sudden. It turned out his problem was nutritional. So now he sees Amy. He knows what she is, but to him, that's still mom. That's the relationship that's been forged and nurtured. It works for Ransom, and Amy loves him.
I think a lot of people find these cross-species relationships surprising because they don't appreciate the richness of the emotional lives of non-human animals. That non-human animals experience the same emotions we do. I love stories about animal behavior, and I always like to say the plural of anecdote is data. And when I hear 100 stories about an improbable relationship, as a scientist, it behooves me or someone to go study them.
Enduring relationships across species may be rare, but caretakers of animals have observed so many that scientists now regard their accounts as valuable field reports, warranting further study. This could herald a whole new area of science.
Come on, babies. Come here, Charlie. Horse. Come on, horse. This is Charlie and Jack. Charlie is a horse that I rescued who's extremely old. He's 40 years old. He's lost the sight in both of his eyes. When he lost his eyesight, we decided that we needed to put him down. But we didn't give enough credit to relationships among our animals, because as soon as Charlie lost his eyesight, Jack, my old goat here, who's 16, took up the job of being Charlie's eyes. One time we had some tornado weather and there was a microblast. Jack came home screaming. And it was like, Timmy's in the well kind of thing. He's running to the gate, he's yelling. And so we come through the gate and Jack just took off. And what we found was the microblast had twisted a grove of trees in a circle. And my blind horse is in the middle of it. And there was no way for him to get out. So Jack actually came and got us to go help his buddy because he couldn't lead Charlie out of that. After that day, I've no longer worried about my blind horse. The reason I know that Jack knows that Charlie is blind is because when Charlie lost his eyesight in the one eye, Jack would lead him on the side. When Charlie lost the eyesight in his remaining eye, Jack started leading in the front. There's a patch of grass that grows in the back of the property, and it's hard to get to. And for no apparent reason, Jack will take Charlie back, lets his friend graze. When Charlie's done, Jack leads him back. When they're leading back, typically the goat would be foraging along the way home. He doesn't do that. He stays on the trail. He lines himself up in front of his buddy, keeps Charlie within 10 or 15 feet of him, and brings him home slowly. Charlie can tell the difference between Jack's footsteps and the other horse or people. Charlie knows those footsteps like his own heartbeat. Once Charlie knows Jack has him on the trail, you'll notice he stops sweeping because he knows Jack is going to lead him to this area that Charlie's most familiar with, and then he's good. We say that humans are the only ones with the instinct of compassion. I say that's wrong. I say that some people are more compassionate than others, some animals are more compassionate than other animals, but we are all capable. We all have the same instinct to be compassionate. Jack gets nothing out of this relationship. Charlie can either protect him or provide for him. So what Jack has done is he is protecting his friend. Period, end of story. There is no Charlie without Jack. All of the things that a normal sighted horse would have, he has, based on a relationship with an old goat.
After 16 years with Jack, Charlie recently had his last moment in the sun and died.
Jack walked up to his friend and put his head down, and he turned around and went home. And the way he went home surprised me. I kind of expected Jack to have an emotional reaction, but he really didn't. He turned around and he headed back home down the trail and went to his favorite place to bed down at night, and he was done. At first, I thought, well, maybe he doesn't understand Charlie's gone, but then I thought, well, he's never left his side. And seeing Charlie laying down like that should alarm Jack. But it didn't alarm him. He just kind of went, okay, old friend, you know, we're done. And very quickly, he's gone downhill. I don't want this little goat and this little horse's story to pass unknown. The stigma with animals that they're just muscle and bone and all they care about is food. I mean, who would think that a goat would take up with a blind horse and spend years doing nothing except babysitting this animal just because he needed help? These guys have so much more to them than we give them credit for. We buried Charlie in a spot in the woods under the trees where they used to hang out. And you could go there in the afternoon and Charlie would be grazing and Jack would be laying in the sun, and that's where we put Charlie, and soon Jack will join his friend right there.
I think grieving, you know, when you lose a friend, it's a form of separation distress. There's some brand new research that shows that physiologically the pain circuits actually get involved in emotional pain. There's been brain scan studies where they've put people in scanners and show them pictures of departed loved ones, and the pain circuits are turning on.
We are interested in what they perceive, at least when it comes to death. So we've designed an experiment where I show monkeys pictures of the faces of other monkeys.
Monkey, look left. Look right.
On one side of the apparatus, I'll show them the picture of an animal who's in their group, currently alive. And the other side of the apparatus, I'll show them a picture of an animal recently in their group, but who has died. And I record their reaction. And if they spend more time looking at the dead individual, potentially this is an indicator that at least it's something that they find interesting. We won't be able to say, oh, it's a sign of grief, but at least it'll be a first step in having good quantitative evidence that this is something that they potentially understand.
Professor Brent's field research on grief among macaques continues. The results of her experiments have yet to be tabulated.
Currently, we don't actually understand very much, if anything, about what non-human animals think about death.